Hello and welcome to another Salty Sunday. Today I'm going to talk about a study which highlights the impact of deep sea mining on sharks, rays and chimaeras, collectively known as chondrichthyans. The deep ocean is one of the least explored habitats on Earth, yet it hosts an extraordinary diversity of life, much of which we are only beginning to understand. Many species of chondrichthyans live exclusively in deep waters, where they play important ecological roles as predators and scavengers. A recent study warns that deep-sea mining could pose a serious new threat to these species. The research identifies 30 species that overlap with areas where mining is most likely to occur, and finds that nearly 2/3 are already threatened with extinction due to overfishing and habitat destruction. The scale of proposed deep-sea mining activities covers an area of 1.4 to 2.3 million kilometres squared. That is 14 to 23 times greater than terrestrial mining and targets 3 types of mineral deposits, that is polymetallic nodules found on abyssal plains such as the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, polymetallic sulfides which are found near hydrothermal vent systems, and cobalt-rich crusts which occur on seamounts. If you want to know more about deep-sea mining and its consequences on such fragile ecosystems, then check out this video. I've put the link in the description. The study looked at how the depth ranges and habitats of over 1,200 sharks, rays and chimaeras overlap with current and proposed deep-sea mining zones. It found 30 species, which included 20 sharks, 8 rays and 2 chimaeras, with significant overlap across the Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Oceans. The overlap happens through 2 main pathways: direct disturbance on the seafloor and exposure to discharge plumes in the water column. The first pathway, benthic disturbance, comes from mining vehicles scraping the seabed, physically destroying the habitat and stirring up sediment, creating plumes. This poses the biggest risk in polymetallic sulfide and cobalt-rich crust mining zones, where habitats that serve as nursery grounds could be destroyed. For example, some cat sharks and skates attach their egg cases to deep-sea corals or sponges, while others rely on the warmer hydrothermal areas near vents to incubate their eggs. And other species, like the chocolate skate and Portuguese dogfish, lay eggs directly on the seafloor. Although polymetallic nodule mining happens at great depths on the abyssal plain, where chondrichthyans rarely go, the plumes created by the mining vehicle can rise into shallower waters where many pelagic species live. Filter-feeding species such as the whale shark, cookie-cutter shark, and sickle-fin devil ray are especially at risk. In fact, a recent report from CMS has identified whale sharks as a species at risk to mining plumes and metal bioaccumulation. The second pathway involves discharge plumes, clouds of fine sediment and wastewater released back into the ocean from the ship. These plumes can drift for tens to hundreds of square kilometres and linger for months, spreading fine particles and potentially toxic metals, impacting pelagic species. The study reported that if plumes were to be discharged below 2,000 metres, the overlap with most species drops sharply, and so recommends placing discharge outlets as deep as possible, ideally below 2,000 metres or directly on the seabed, in order to reduce impacts on pelagic species. However, if this did occur, the impact on egg-laying benthic species will be unavoidable. The authors go on to outline several management recommendations. Firstly, conservation assessments, such as the IUCN Red List, need to be updated for deep-sea sharks, rays and chimaeras in light of deep-sea mining. Next, strong baseline monitoring needs to be carried out with the use of baited cameras, tagging and visual surveys before, during and after mining to track real impacts. Thirdly, sensitive habitats such as seamounts and hydrothermal vents need to be safeguarded just like the protected areas in the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. And finally, mining waste needs to be carefully managed by releasing plumes deep below 2,000 metres or at the seafloor, depending on how fragile the local ecosystem is. This study highlights the need for improved monitoring and deeper discharge strategies to minimise impacts on sharks, rays and chimaeras, species that represent a vital and fragile part of deep ocean ecosystems. However, like many others, I believe deep sea mining should be banned altogether. It poses a profound and largely unmeasured threat to marine biodiversity, a risk humanity simply cannot afford to take. It's hard to believe that in our pursuit of metals like nickel, cobalt and manganese, materials used in renewable energy technologies and batteries, we are willing to sacrifice yet another of Earth's most extraordinary and diverse ecosystems. Once the deep sea is disturbed, its silence and life may never return the same way again. Thank you for watching, and if you have enjoyed this episode, then please like, subscribe and share with your like-minded friends.